Could you believe? Step in the fire, take my hand. I'll take you higher than you've ever been. Than you've ever been.
Oh yeah! Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part for coming on in today. Please check it out and let's see what's going on down in the charts. So, as we saw on Friday, we saw that eat into the liquidity, and we were talking about the potentiality of a bounce, which did go up to the 1.32 region. We're going to talk about the values and stuff on a different chart. This is the Coinbase chart. I just used this to look at the fib levels of the diagonal pitch fan fibs, which is quite interesting. This is why we saw the rejection potential here, which wasn't a fib on the bearish trend based fib extension. Yeah, so let's go into the liquidity. So as we were seeing before, we had a negative $30 billion imbalance, which we started to come back into and eat up. We were talking about the potentiality of coming up to the 20,005 region to take out some of these bubbles and the induced traders that were brought into inducement down here. These bubbles had previously been underwater and they were going up to them. We said it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to see them take this region, and they came up to the 2126, came back down again, and then I believe they went back up after that point. Yeah, they sure did. And then they ended up getting those guys eventually, as seen here. So they went up to the 20,006 region before reversing abruptly and taking some of these bubbles on the downside. This is the 1 minute time frame of high block capital, which shows about 6 days of data of liquidity, which we are now currently sitting at negative 22 billion on that 6 days of data in terms of short liquidity located to the upside. We still have large amounts located at 21, nearing 21.9, and it's caked all the way up in this region. So we could see a retrace up into this region that we came down out of, similar to what we were projecting for a possibility on the previous drop down. But it is the weekend, so we would expect a little bit of range trading as they eat all the 100x up and down as they absorb the imbalance of the immediate drop and start to cake up liquidity down here. Looks like this region down here is also getting thick. Let's just look at some of the values down there. So you got $191 million, 150, 135. These are some of the fat bubbles that from down here that they're still in profit with paying them down here. And it looks like a large long opened up here, which is in the immediate interest zone. 135 million opened up here as it spiked up. And as you look on this black region here above my head, most likely, you would see that there's a few lines here of 66 million, 41, 38, 31, 37, 29 in this immediate region, but this 135 kind of keeps it at equilibrium, which is why it's at the halfway point between each of these. It's trying to induce more liquidity in before it goes up. And now you see how the bull flag works. It creates these trend lines, these lower highs and higher lows that could coalesce to a point where they determine where the imbalance lies and say okay and then go up, or okay and go down. So it's not necessarily the pattern. So the cart before the horse is not the pattern before the move. It's the liquidity behind the thing that creates the pattern, which creates the move. So it's kind of interesting and fun to look at the liquidity, to say the least. Alright, so let's go to a chart that's completely fresh and clean in terms of levels and no diagonal fibs here, just to see what's going on. So we determined that there was a fair value gap over here and there was a larger pool, golden pocket region, that we were tapping back into, and that area of confluence gave us the idea to come down into this region and see some bullish divergence, which we saw on the RSI here. We saw double divergence actually on the money flow and the RSI, which caused us to see this move to the upside. And we were talking about reaching up to this 20,513 region just based off the liquidity that was caked into that region, as well as the fair value gap located over here. So even if you don't have high block capital, you could be looking at these fair value gaps coinciding with other fib levels for your projection to where things could possibly come back down and double bottom. And you'll never come out of a range completely with, I mean, you do have V-shaped recoveries, but that would just become a W formation for another double bottom. You want to see these double bottoms for any potential rise out. Now, where do we stand now? We'll start going back on the time frames and look at the indicators in just a minute. Let's do a little bit more in-depth outlook on the liquidity and how it's changed and shifted from the 1 month time frame and 3 month time frame and so on. All right, so on the 1 month time frame, we had a bunch of liquidity located down below, obviously, and they came right down to that end thick green yellow point, and it was most thickest on the 3 months. So we'll just go right to the 3 month. So we had $40 billion, double digit numbers on all of this range up to here, which they just came and shredded through. And we still have some down below here as well, down to the 18K region. I think we determined that there's a local fib level down here somewhere that they could bounce off of on a 618. So this is not necessarily out of the picture just yet until they clear this. It's pretty sparse up above by comparison. I know that seems kind of weird when you're looking at all of this, but yeah, these are possibilities that these are closing out trades, which cause this to rise up and capsize and cannibalize the late shorters as they pay themselves. So they may be exiting positions, causing these bounces with the idea in mind to pierce back through down to this level. So there's still some more liquidity down here from the 19.4 to the 18K region. 30 billion, 34 billion, 35, 44, 45, 48, 41, 39, 31, and so on. So that's still a potential target if they're continuing to go lower. While at the same time, if you go to the yearly time frame, you start to see the juiciness up above. So all the way back here since May of 2022, you had some trades and shorts opening up. You even have some up here at this region at 31K in the 77 billion region, which are $84 billion above us in shorts that are getting paid. That becomes these imbalance above us, these marionette strings, if you will. So what do those represent? We now have 178 billion at 25.6, 110, 26 even, 78 billion, 26.4, 26.8 has 130, 73 at 27.2, 121 at 27.6, and 74 billion at 28 even. So you have all these not so far away by comparison, although equidistant away you have 200 billion down at 15.2, which they let survive since back here about 100. So they've caked $100 billion into the mix since that time back in November. So this band is also getting thick, and you're seeing these regions still have 100 billion, up to 100 billion, all the way down to 18K. So if that little cushion of liquidity gets chewed up, then they have what they got to fund another journey up to that region, as far as I can tell. So let's turn on the indicators and take a look at the levels. Alright, so as we said before, you break through the cloud, you make a breakthrough, and what do? You come back, and sure enough, you kiss the cloud. Now, it burst right through the cloud here and started to get thin. You see this purple line here starting to get thin, and now you're getting this as kind of like a support structure on the hourly time frame. So you're seeing that kind of hug and stay on the cloud. This is a volume weighted moving average based formula, so it factors volume, which causes the thinning to dissipate on the selling side of momentum, and now you're starting to see this turn into some support structure, at least on the hourly time frame. So we previously had the bullish divergence on here, turned into bearish, and got some bullish divergence as we stay flat here. So if we go to the higher time frame now, that was just the immediate play. We're going to go to the higher time frame and see where all these other clouds and these outskirts of the Keltner channels lie. So you're kind of getting overbought on the 4 hour, although that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you look to the higher time frame for that extra boost, the 6 hours starting to get spent a little bit here. Sure, it could express itself all the way up to the max region, but after a drop like that, people are probably a little bit uneasy, to say the least. But it's not people that guide the price, it's the algorithm, so it doesn't really matter. You go to the 12 hour, you see that it still could continue higher. Overall, not so much interest entering here so far. If we go to the 22, still kind of low and undecided. So a lot of these oscillators here, the Williams, the stochastic RSI, the money flow, the RSI, all of these are getting into this low state onto the daily time frame, which is interesting, which is all completely at 0 at this time, completely flatlined, as is the 3-day. Three-day has the Williams starting to come down on you after that alarming situation that occurred, and this could still come down, technically speaking, in a similar fashion to this last time that you had an alarm on the 3-day, which was back here. So you had the 3-day alarm and it started to play out, and we came down while that was resetting. So we're kind of on that potentiality for the 3-day to reset, which would put us in a lower position, actually, based off of how deep of a thing that was. You do have other times where it went up from there, so that could be, you know, a slight dump before you go back up on that double top scenario here. This would put us at the level we're at on the Williams, so you could see a bounce similar to what happened in 2021 in September, the October reversal idea on the 3-day. It doesn't always have to be down in this region necessarily speaking, although that is keen for a bounce as well. And let's look at the weekly real quick. Let's see what the weekly's up to. So the weekly has come down ever so slightly in a very guided way in terms of this probabilities. It hasn't come down so slowly in this weekly candle way. The weekly candle is not closed yet. We still have a day and 10 hours before this becomes finalized and set in stone. So is that going to kiss off of the cloud here? So as it holds true in any regard, we just talked about the hourly idea. What happens? You break through the cloud and you come back and you kiss the cloud. The cloud is currently down here at that fair value gap region and starting to turn to that positive level. So it came back and it retests off of it, which also happens to coincide with the levels we were talking about yesterday. So we're kind of coming back into that pocket on the weekly. It just looks like a simple rise, retrace, continuation pattern. And so that becomes into this 618 of this entire weekly range from the impulse up and down. So do we go lower to grab that other pocket of liquidity before going up, which coincides with the outskirts of this cloud as we test to see how strong it is? Who knows? So interesting. So we saw all the way up to the weekly from the hourly time frame. Let's go back to the hourly time frame and see where we are. So we did the same thing, break out, come back to the cloud. We're holding that cloud. What are these indicators I'm looking at? This is the Momentum Master Suite. Link in the description. You can toggle all of these things to see what it is they do. You can look at them individually, like what is the trend cloud? It's a volume-weighted cloud formula which expands and thins according to the amount of volume present in the asset. Price tends to gravitate and retest the cloud as a point of resistance or support. Thick clouds represent strong trends, thin clouds represent weakness or consolidation points. Keep in mind when the cloud thins, a potential expansion or reversal is in. So yeah, looking for the cloud to thin on all of these time frames will give you some sort of idea about that reversal potential or expansion. So you had that back here too. So you had a thinning here, and then the expansion to the downside occurred. So it doesn't always mean reversal. It just means it's the thinning point is where interest starts to make the move that it was intending to do. So similar to back here, you did drop down out, you had a thick cloud, it started to get thin, you pierced it up, you came back, you kissed it, and you started to hold this, but it didn't ultimately hold for long. You had these 3 hits to the high and then dumped out of that as well. So that could occur as you do the same thing over and over again. You come back, you retest it, you hold it, you play around and and this is all weekend. So we could be seeing a rinse and a repeat of that as they try to coerce others to enter. In the immediate, what I'm seeing right off the bat here is that this seems like these targets could be coming to be taken at this time. So in this immediate drop down to here, you could take like a range bound thing. It also happens to be our bearish trend-based fib extension level. So you could take these bearish trend-based fib extension tools. Here you do the click from the top to the bottom to the retrace to the top. It projects these fib lines into the future, which become these points that it bounces off of and fails at the 706 down to the downside. Aggressive drop down to the 618. And why do I use these numbers? Well, they just happen to play out. Like if we look at the S&P last night, we talked about if it can't get above this level, it's likely to come into this fib region, and it sure enough did just that. So when it broke this 786 level, it was just kind of broke right down immediately to it. So these things kind of help you in projecting the path of where it will continue down. So we're not exactly in the best point at this exact moment in time, but you try to look for where the next point will be, where you could probably find an entry if you believe in a direction. You can get these alerts set to your phone, so you would have got this morning on my time at 10 a.m. saying that 3 time frames were overbought. We were saying in the Rayman Discord that we're at the fib region from the live that was hit, and we were talking about coming up to that region to knock out some liquidity at 20,513. Sure enough, we did that, and then started to reverse back down. So you could have taken this 618 bounce again here, and you would be in this kind of 1.77 profit. We are at the adaptive moving average beneath it on the 15-minute here. Cloud is also acting as resistance, still thick by the looks of it. So we still have this thickness that we're trying, resistance that we're trying to get above. So the 15-minute is getting overbought. You had previously like hidden bearish divergence on the money flow here, getting kind of overbought. So are we going to come down one more time on the 15? So this is just like initial scalping. We can't really see a clear momentum for a long term, but basically the hourly is holding strong here on that cloud. And in terms of the 4 hour, that's way up there. And so when we're on the outskirts of that channel, we had even a resistance of the Keltner, which we came back and we're trying to get back into this Keltner channel band. It was an extreme breakdown out of the band. Similar to here, we broke out, we came back, bounced off the top of it, came back up, and kind of rode the upper echelon of that 4-hour cloud. So we could be seeing the same thing where you come back down and you're escalating down as the cloud comes down to you. So in terms of timing for a longer term play, you'd probably get some sort of another hit down in this region perhaps. The hourly play is attempting to play out here. We're not going to look at New York today. We're just going to take a look at Bitcoin and check it out and see if there's any altcoins that you're into. So how y'all doing? Wow, 102 views. Thanks for coming on in, everyone. So we take a look at this hourly, how much of this hourly will play out. You have the baseline above the price. It's not showing extreme health since this afternoon when we dropped out of it with aggression. So people are just taking their profits on this pretty quickly. So they take it and then just immediately took it back. So we're probably going to see some sort of ranging similar to what we had prior. There's a little bit more ups and downs than there was back here. This is pretty much sideways the entire time last weekend. And we've seen basically 2 weekends of this. We've seen a drop on Friday and then some consolidation. And a drop on Friday and some consolidation. Drop on Friday, some consolidation. So it just seems to be a rinse and repeat of that. Okay, so and just going back in this region, the fib retracement tool, if you were so inclined from here, you would have been able to see that this is the 618 pocket of this impulse up here. So you could have seen some sort of entry here on the 3 diamond that appeared on the phone a few hours ago. If you're looking to scalp, and we go to a lower time frame. Getting above the adaptive and the weighted now with the baselines below the price. Bounce off, break through the cloud, break, retrace, kiss it. So this 20,300 region seems to be that one guy at 66 million. This one opened up at 135. I don't really see anything extremely amazing in the immediate range here. Everything would be up in this region here. That's the triple caked, triple layered, stacked liquidity ranges. If we look over here at 878, you see 226 million stacked with this 130 million. So this region with this long line over to the right here, this whole region seems to be like an interesting little blob of liquidity that wants to be grabbed and layered up properly with a lot of dots here. So we're going to keep an eye on that and probably see some sort of move Sunday into Monday for the weekly candle close. So are they trying to keep this idea of weakness going so these guys keep their trades open, these 329 million, 329 million, 329 million, so that they can sneak up at a moment's notice and grab them while they gather the most they need over the weekend. Seems to be the pattern they've been following for the last 2 weeks, where they consolidate for the 2 weeks, because you are getting some layered down here as well at the 19.4 region. 19.3, 19.4 also getting layered nicely. So they're going to come up to the 20,286 level. 286. Yeah, that 66 million guy, that entire region here seems to be the target. So coming up and grabbing these guys, perhaps. Alright, so I'll be taking some questions and some requests, some special token requests, asset requests, whatever you want to look at. Please let me know. Yo, what's up? It's Crypto Life. How's it going? You have anything you want to look at? Please let me know. I've been to give myself reprieve at work. I've been planning like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign with some of the more communicative students. I'm deciding to enter my character into the fold next story time we have. I'm a dragonborn paladin of Bahamut. So I'm a righteous dragon paladin, there to help them fight against a necromancer. I don't know if you guys have ever done tabletop RPGs. Speaking of tabletop RPGs and dice, I did some weird thing with 3 dice today. I had 3 dice in my hand and I rolled it in my hand at my friend's house. I got triple threes. I did it again, got triple threes. And then I did it a third time and I got 3, 3, 5. And I was like, oh man, I almost got the triple threes. But that was kind of weird. His son didn't believe me. He's like, you got to show me. And I was like, I told you. Yeah, sometimes you get in that zone where you can throw what you want or what makes the most sense to you. So what do you guys want to look at? Yeah, my students are Japanese. It's an international school, so they all speak English since they were kids. So they like make their own characters. Like some kid made like this armor ghost character. He's like a ghost pirate guy, and then he wrote like his backstory and stuff in English. They're pretty good. They can write like their own kind of more creative stories. One person, 2 girls were like a sorcerer who controlled the elements and stuff. So I'm trying to find ways to get their stories to combine to this thing they're going. They're kind of thirsty, so I'm trying to get them to go back to town so they can study some spells and stuff. There's so many. It's weird how when you make a campaign, you start to see all these different elements that you could possibly do as side quests and stuff. But it teaches good teamwork and different skills, because they had to work together to make one character. 2 kids for 1 character. If you're looking for that stuff for your like family, if you don't know anything about it, Hero Kids is a entry point that's really simple for like 4 to 8-year-old kids, but I use a hodgepodge system of tiny D6 rules and just regular Dungeons and Dragons. But so it looks like we're reclaiming the adaptive, at least for the interim, and we come up to here and then maybe come back as this starts to curve and thin. And so you'd be looking for the 5 and the 15 to reset after this plays out and see how it holds after that point. Similar to this idea, it would come back, come down, and you'd be looking for some sort of retrace so that you can continue up from that point. You don't buy the green candles, you wait for it to come back to you at a point of your understanding. M-swap. So the first thing I do is I look over here and I see what the volume is. It's at $334 million. It's pretty good in terms of volume. Looks like the rockets they came down. It did take 1, 2, 3, 4 to play out here. This is on Friday, March 2nd. We were dropping, so it the point where it would have bounced got negated by the Bitcoin dump by the looks of it, but it still played out and you would have even come out of break even if you took this one. But this is quite a hefty drop in the meantime. Here you had a rocket ship that played out. Let's see how much these are in terms of percent. So you get 42% off these rockets. It's pretty cool. And then you go over here, you get another one. 30%. Alright, so let's go to a higher time frame and see how this works. I remember this. So in July we saw this massive surge up for whatever reason. Somebody got invested in by somebody significant, came back, slowly kept going back to the entry level. So you could be kind of creating this rounded bottom. You had your first bounce and then you're trying to get this second bounce. The 3-day is reset, the weekly is reset, the daily is reset, the 4 hours reset. You're kind of getting good on all of these higher time frames as well. 4 hours not a higher time frame, but it's medium, but on the higher time frames you're getting into that position. I don't know what the project is or why you would be interested in it, but if you look simply off of so we're below that. Was that a No, that was the arrow, so there we go. So we were actually there. Let's just do something like this. I'm going to turn on the lower low look back so I don't have to deal with the support. So these little diamonds tell you when you've been making lower lows and stuff. So we've been making lower lows on the daily here. So because we've been making lower lows and we've been getting overbought without really going anywhere, so it got overbought on 7 time frames here without really going anywhere and kind of slowly bleeding out as you make lower lows. I would kind of wait for this to kind of get the baselines beneath it again. So similar to how we had it back here on February 15th where the baselines were beneath the price, and then you saw this surge up from here by 41% or whatever. Like, you'd be waiting for these baselines to kind of come down a little bit more, at least on the daily. So let's go to the 12-hour. You were getting about 2 rocket you got a rocket ship that kind of like immediately closed on the 12-hour. So the rocket ships that the higher the time frame the rocket ship closes, the more inbound or elastic move to the opposite direction would occur. So the fact that this closed on a 12-hour time frame would have told you, like, wow, that would have been a really good point to at least see some bounce of some kind into profit, which you did see. So now you're kind of trying to stop making lower lows on this range and reset a little bit of the stochastic, and it looks the same no matter where you go. So this type of schematic that's here on the website is kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for that to stop making lower lows, and then you start to round out and make these double bottoms, and the cloud thins, and then you break up above that. So you're trying to see if it creates this double bottom and stops going below this red line. So you'd be looking for something to continue in this fashion around this region. So you're getting bullish divergence on the RSI, on the 12-hour, which played out possibly already, and go to the 6. Got bullish divergence on the money flow and the RSI on the 6-hour here, which started to play out. And you're getting that rocket ship close there of 2, of course. And the 4-hour is starting to possibly curve up and create a double top for that inverse head and shoulder idea. So you could have, like, you know, something like this. You never know. And we look at the hourly. Getting the Williams rising sun here. Still could continue higher on the hourly time frame. The cloud is kind of wonky and strangely in a position that's above the price, even though it's blue. You did get that initial bounce off it from the rocket here. So if you just played this rocket ship, you could have kind of used the cloud in some way. And now you're beneath it, and beneath the weighted, beneath the adaptive. So you're beneath these generally as you come up to, and then you start to gravitate up towards them, hold it, and then keep shooting up higher. So are we going to go up here and try to SR flip this on the hourly? Yeah, your hourly time frame's getting overbought and you didn't really go anywhere. You got the same thing going on with Bitcoin, trying to hold that cloud and try to go up. But you got a bunch of resistance levels above you right now. So you'd want to see these things kind of come down below in a nice manner where you can scoop the price action similar to here, where the price action goes above and is bouncing off of these moving averages to go higher. Then there's less resistance above you, which doesn't get faded out as you hit these points and people exit their position. So I'd be looking for like a double bottom of some sort down by this rocket region at this value here. Cloud fades, kind of fades here and then goes back down to retest to come up, something like that. So if you're looking for a long, you'd be looking for it somewhere along this line. If you don't make a lower low as well, then you'd be having more of a likelihood of that playing out, similar to here where you're kind of hitting the region where the rocket was, but you didn't go below that lower low wick, so you're kind of holding that region, and then boom, you went out. You can study the schematic and what the components are at momentummaster.info, link in the description. Please check it out. You basically go down into that region by the rocket ship here on the 4-hour. And then you could come up to probably like something like whereabouts here. So even if you were to do that from there to there, you could kind of get like a 33% kind of move on that after the hourly fades. Where will the hourly take you? Like you have to wait for that resistance for it to come back down again and watch where that's going to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be at this exact level. It can be somewhere in this region, but where the hourly and the 15 line up in your favor without the 4 hour being too overbought or you'd want it to be more oversold. So it could pretend to play out on the hourly and then continue lower on the 4 hour and reset the 4 hour. So you'd want to have the 4 hour come in conjunction with ideally with the hourly and the 15 and the 5 minute again. But you know, it doesn't always have to be exact, but you'd see the hourly play out, it comes back down with the 4 hour, and then finding that point in time would be kind of a good idea, perhaps. Yeah, that was MSwap. Yeah, no problem. Anything else? You guys ever play tabletop RPG games? I like horror ones as well. I like the Call of Cthulhu. This is like a solo campaign for Call of Cthulhu. It's pretty scary. They have this one's in Boston, and this one's like in Alaska. This is good for winter time. It's pretty scary. But you play a solo campaign. It's like a choose your own adventure thing, but you roll dice for success and failure, and you build your character like that. It's pretty cool. The Call of Cthulhu. You know Call of Cthulhu? It's only the most... You have Cabinet of Curiosities. That's the latest kind of thing like that, if you're interested in that type of horror, thriller, old school style stuff. Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. XRP. All right. Yeah, he Guillermo del Toro, who did Hellboy and a bunch of other stuff, he's highly inspired by H.P. Lovecraft work, which is dealing with cosmic horror. I love cosmic horror so much. Dealing with horrible entities from other dimensions that are indescribable and make you crazy to see. But yeah, his Cabinet of Curiosities series on Netflix is pretty cool. He's aiming to get funded to be able to open Into the Mouth of Madness movie with Tom Cruise. I heard he wants to make a Call of Cthulhu movie with Tom Cruise. All right, so XRP. Let's see. Yeah, so XRP had this nice double bottom, and it looks like you're getting a rocket on the 4-hour time frame here, which from 8 hours ago. You're not making a lower low here, which is nice to see. You have bullish divergence on the money flow as of Friday, and actually the RSI rather. You have bullish divergence on the RSI as of 14 hours, a day ago, 24 hours ago. Is that playing out? We're getting a reset of the Williams here nicely. We're getting to green levels. This is a quite nice idea. I'm liking what XRP has to offer in terms of probability wise, where it's taking its interest if we don't make a lower low here. And this is kind of what you would want to see in the for MSwap. We're currently seeing it in this midway point, and we're saying, yeah, it could come back up and then fail and come back down, and then this double bottom scenario without going into this red would be where you want to see it, and this is where we see it for XRP. So we're going to go to a higher time frame really quick and turn these off and do some fib work real quick. So we can kind of do that on this thing. Alright, so we're going to just take this here. So didn't they have some sort of news or something that kind of caused it to drop as well? I don't really follow the news so much. They had some sort of SEC thing going on. SEC's acting kind of foolish or something these days. What else is new? But it seems like it's just being like these bearish. Obviously that's from way back in the day, but you did see this run up with everything in January. You're seeing the retrace, the continuation not really playing out, kind of getting sold off at this 236 of this bearish fib level. So you had, how do you get the bearish fib level? Let's go over that again. You go to the trend-based fib extension tool, you go to the top, bottom, that's your impulse, then retrace to the top, that's as high as we could go, and then you start to see the 236 as your weakness point, which of course happened, and then we went back down into the 706 region. And so are we going to break below that and bounce at the 786? The 786 also happens to be the 618 of this entire daily range, if you will, this impulse range, this break of structure range on the daily. So we've come back into this. So this W that we were intending to go higher on didn't play out, and now we're back into that region. So you'd kind of come back into an order block in this range. So I'd be just chilling, looking for that. Or you could just say that it could be occurring because of the rocket ships. Let's go see how many times the rocket ships actually did their thing and what time frame was best for that. So you have a rocket ship now, obviously, that closed on the 4-hour. Where's the last 4-hour rocket? And how many duds did we have? And what was going on around the duds as they played out? So you had another 4-hour one here back in August of 2022. You had just one on the 4-hour. So it doesn't look like there's many that close on 4-hour time frames like that. And the last time we did that, we kind of surged up from this region, you know, for 66% gains in August of 2022. I don't know. And then, but we did have some duds here. This is obviously the month of April 2022 was the liquidation event for Luna. So it was a straight downside for everything, and it just broke the probability. But you had other times where it looks like there was duds on the 4-hour here. So ideally, when you see the rocket ship and you're not making lower lows and you're in the consolidation range, that's the best rocket ship to take, not ones that immediately appear as you're dropping. This is why you have the lower low look back, so that you can kind of see for yourself when you're making a lower low that it's not necessarily the best place to long. So are we making a lower low here? Not necessarily. And you only have one rocket locked in. But in terms of structure or patterns and things, you're not really in like this. I mean, I guess you're in this extended range here. You could take a regression trend. If you just want to do 2 clicks, you can get it in a channel. You don't need to mess with lines or get no messing, no guessing. Just 2 clicks later, you got a channel for your coin. So you got that kind of cup and handle action going. You're retracing into these regions that seem like areas of interest for you. The 618 would be ideal down here, which because it coincides with the 786. So 35225 would be a point of interest for, but it looks like you're good to go on the 1-hour, the 4-hour, and above. Maybe 6 and 12 are also in your favor here for XRP. You're getting bullish divergence on the RSI here on the 6-hour, 12-hour. You are getting the money flow kind of rising up above the RSI, which shows it could possibly come back down, but it can go up to it too. The RSI can go up to the money flow too, so that this possibly could come down once more on the 12-hour. It is below 50, but it would be nicer if it was down in this region and these were down lower, so you could see this green appear ideally. And let's look at the hourly. Got bullish divergence on the hourly as well. You had the rocket back there, and you're getting another rocket week or so ago. So where would this take you? Where would this take you back up to? Let's put the lower low off right now. So you can see the hourly and the 4-hour play out here. So ideally you want to come down to that 786, but nothing is ever perfect. So if you turn on the stop loss, if you were looking at an hourly play, it would put your stop loss below the 786, which is the 35.1 region. So if you wanted to take a chance on that, even though we're going sideways for the weekend, but sideways is a good point to take care of alt trades. Sideways for BTC equals good for alts, so you could see a potential move in some way, shape, or form. Where would it take you? You could look at this fair value gap region here. This would put you to that 37 region and above, you know, like a 6% move maybe, and you get hit with some resistance on the adaptive. 15-minute is getting overbought here. You did have the bullish divergence on the RSI here too, so you could see it come up more. Let's go look at the liquidation levels for XRP. They do offer them for high block as well. So we'll go to the liquidation levels. XRP. Boom. Doesn't have all altcoins, and I'm unfamiliar with how the liquidity looks here, so we'll see. Nice. So it looks like for XRP we have $856 million in balance to short liquidity, which would put you upwards in this regions to get those caked levels up here at 41. It looks like there's a large amount up here from the 39 region up to the 41 region on this 1 minute time frame. They came and ate all this liquidity up here when we were imbalanced to longs, and you still have some caked levels down here which would be at the 35.5 region. 35.5 would put you somewhere in between the, it wouldn't take you necessarily down to that 786. The 786 level would be 35.2. So let's see what is at 35.2. 35.2 is, yeah, at the bottom of this caked up region. So if you saw all this caked up longs taken, then you could see it bounce up here. But as it stands right now, in terms of that 6% move we were talking about to that upwards region, you are seeing a lot of liquidity up here that's kind of getting lined up nicely in this region, and you have other $2 million guys here and there. So there's a little bit of a gap in liquidity up above, and there's some guys down below here, particularly this guy at 35.7 with 5.7 million that they might come and get. So coming to get these guys which are nearer by first and clearing this range and coinciding it with the 786 region, like here's where I would be looking at potentially, you know, somewhere in here. And that coincides with the fibs quite nicely, you know. But you got those rockets and they tend to do their thing. I'm just a little bit more careful, especially after a drop what we had for Bitcoin. I don't know. But that looks like that 786 coincides with the 618. So getting that 618 rejection bounce plus the 786 bounce of this bearish one of just people like, you know, playing it conservative on their shorts, you know, somewhere in that region. We'll check back in a bit, but yeah, that looks like it's a good point for a long scalp slash swing, maybe. I don't know. Thanks for shouting out XRP. We'll keep an eye on it for you. Can you have a look at Bake for me too if you get a chance? I got it to go, but KuCoin messed with my stop loss and didn't trigger, and I got stuck with it. Any chance of it going higher? You said Bake? Bake. Not cake, bake. Alright, Bake. Let's just turn these off really first. So from December 2022, we had the run up like everything else. It didn't really have as strong over, it had these weird rises and drops and rises and drops. But it peaked out up here on February 24th. If we just go solely off of this as price action and we just go from top to that, kind of going into the 886 region of this thing. But to be not counting everything exactly, let's go to a higher time frame even more. So you could come down to this 886. This is kind of like your last resort region, which is why it's all red here. You know, it's kind of like not showing potentially potential interest per se, but sometimes it does go back to that region to bounce. Also, you're dealing with this wick. I don't know how much liquidity it is in here. It looks like we say it says volume 811 million, so it's an extremely scantly traded volume coin for my liking. So the things aren't going to necessarily reflect as accurately as Bitcoin or you know, forex pairs or something like that. So yeah, the altcoin game is kind of tricky because you got a lot of these algorithmic things that are being done to cause it to create this price action on very low volume. So it's not exactly an accurate reflection of the interest of the project itself. So I try to avoid those things personally, but you got into the 886 region. If you were to see some sort of bounce, it would be in that last resort 886 of this retracement idea. And if we go into the bearish idea here, let's just say we had this I really don't know what that candle had inside of it to be looking at it as a valid impulse. Okay, so you're at the bottom of this Keltner channel. I'd wait for this to kind of possibly come down more, although this is not my cup of tea. I'm saying it again. You know, any of these lines, last resort, absolute last resort. Like, I mean, if you're trapped in it, you should always use a stop loss when you get in, so you don't have to mind it. And if it knocks you out, it knocks you out, it knocks you out. So, you know, we got these stop loss formulas. If you're having trouble thinking about it, it tells you where the stop loss formula is, and so you can calculate your risk reward ratio at that time. Like, you could slide it depending on what time frame you're looking to trade at, you know, and you can measure that risk reward as however you like it. And if it hits you, then it wasn't meant to be, because the math on these things is pretty accurate. So you don't have to guess where support and resistance are. You can just have the stop loss on, and it's pretty conservative in terms of keeping you in the trade accurately. You go to a higher time frame, it's going to change that value. So yeah, I mean, in terms of stochastic RSI, you're pretty good on the hourly bounce, 15-minute idea coming down here. Like, you'd want to see this 886 hold for that idea to be valid. And that's about it for Bake. I mean, just looking solely at structure, like, appearances can be deceiving, especially with volume at this 11 million region. So it looks like it has like strength or whatever. Like, immediately you'd see kind of like a rounded bottom, like inverse head and shoulders, that kind of played out, but then gave everything back for whatever reason. So, you know, how much of this, how much strength does it have to continue higher? You mean you had a pretty massive uptake here. That was nice in March of 2022, before we immediately tumbled for all of September. And these rockets were pretty accurate. They had you there too. That was a daily rocket close. You had another rocket ship here, which took you up. So in the ultimate ideal world, you'd want to see, like, you know, some of these lower areas to hold and then find your entry. Getting enticed, I'll reiterate the premium versus discount idea. So anything above the 0.5 region of a range is kind of premium value. So if you're retracing and you're up in here and you're looking for longs, you might want to consider like waiting for a retrace into these 706 regions, which would be below these 0.5. So it would be at a discount before entry. I'm not saying you didn't do that. I have no idea. I'm just talking out loud. But if you were looking at things up here, it might be better to think about it in terms of like where they are down in these regions. And the fact that it did get these bounces at the 618 and the 706, and we're now down in these 7-8 below the 786 at the 886 region, it just shows the interest is waning. It's not as hot as it could be, because it would have seen that necessarily here if it was hot. And 706 was kind of a nice opportunity as well, which didn't happen. And so you're basically at a last resort zone down here at the 886. And you got these bearish trend-based fibs, which puts you down here possibly as a wick down to here before coming out for Bake. Let's see what else you got. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's what I mean with the low liquidity. If you have low liquidity, it doesn't trigger your fill because they don't really have the liquidity for it. and so it just will skip right past your stop loss. So you got to be careful with these like things. As soon as I look at a coin, the first thing I look at is how much volume is traded in it, and it says 11 million. These micro caps have very little liquidity, so they don't have the lubrication to get you in and out of trades and fill your orders easily. They might move right past it, and then you get hit with the fees or something like that to market order out. So is it worth it with the profit that you give? You might give back a lot of the percent just off the fees alone. I have no idea, but I would look at the volume over here on the right hand side to try to figure out, and then even looking some research on how much volume it trades rather than just the pattern itself, you know. That's why I trade Bitcoin so much, because it's just like, you know, the volume is there in terms of a bounce being something that has the liquidity for it. But all right, so we're going back to the hourly here. We're not really seeing much enter here. Obviously, it's the weekend. Weekend trading is kind of sideways. So you have this. Let's go over the ranges really quick. So you have basically, if you just take the high and the low from this range. Let's just go to a fresh chart here, shall we? We're going to take this off. As we wind down with the last song. So, you know, even if you were just range trading this region, we're current at the equilibrium point for this local impulse move range. As we drop down, this low and this high created an interest zone, if you will. So you'd be looking for potentially longs down below this 0.5 region. So this equilibrium zone is not where you tend to get along. It would be in the premium region, so you'd be looking for 618 bounces, 706 bounces, which we saw before, and these would be your discounted regions, and then you take them up to the premium regions and just could be range trading this entire thing like a game of Pong, like hitting the ball up, hitting the ball down. So now you're at an equilibrium point. This is just not a place to really think about anything. Just try to think about whether it's going to go down to a region here or a region up here for a short or a long. And yeah, we're going to probably see some range trading over the weekend. So if you're scalping, you'd just be looking to get in and out using the crossovers. And we have those crossover ideas on the DNA here. So you get these little like oversold and overbought regions. That's a little bit of a weekend update. I'll probably see more happening when we get up in the morning or on Sunday night into Monday for the weekly candle close. You'll probably see more of a move if they've enticed more in. It's pretty much going down to this region, which is nearby, as we said in the beginning, because there was a gap up here. So they're probably going down to, oh whoops, we're looking at XRP. Yeah, I thought that was different. So there's just not really anything immediately in the charts as a huge bubble to interest them at this exact moment in time. It's kind of at an equidistant point. Equidistant. Alright guys, thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in and saying what's up. I'll hopefully see you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow and there on abouts. Please have a good weekend. Take it easy. Just trade safe on the weekends, low liquidity and all that jazz. Just have fun, enjoy yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Peace.